Hello, friends. Welcome to Inspire Higher Family and Leadership. Today, we're going to be talking about what was the thought pattern of the partner in my decision for coming back home and leaving work completely. So, let's jump right in.
Right? Tell them why you made that decision.
Well, first off, let me introduce myself. I'm Shawnee Presley.
I'm Leo.
Okay, so I made that decision because I was mentally stressed. I was grieving of my mom's loss like literally a month prior,
Hmm.
and I emotionally couldn't handle the grieving and working at the same time. For some reason I couldn't do it, and I was just it was too much to handle. And then I literally called him from work and said, "I want to resign." And then he said, "Think about it." And
Did I
then
say that?
I don't remember what you said.
I said that's what you need to do.
Yeah, if that's what you need to do. And how long was it when I decided to give up the papers?
The next week.
Okay, so the following week I resigned, and I did gave a 30-day notice. I mentally and emotionally couldn't handle the grieving that I was going through and the workload that I was having. I enjoyed my job, but I just couldn't handle it anymore. So the questions stem from I was getting emotionally better. I was working on myself. But now that I'm still working on myself and doing things with the children, I just decide to wonder how did he feel as the person that was having to get the full brunt of the financial situation of the house. So I asked them a couple questions. So we're going to get straight into it. The first question was, how did your mindset change when I decided to come home to be a stay at home mom?
A little background on me. I came from a very traditional background. Mom and dad. Dad was dad. You know, you be a man. When we got married, when we was getting ready to get married, my dad told me, "Look, regardless of what she decides to do, the house is on you." Okay, if she works, if she doesn't work, the house is on you. So that's the mindset I always came from. Okay, I came from you're the man, you're the provider, and that's what you have to expect to be. Um, in that moment, I was working, you were working. Financially, we were at a comfortable place. We only had two children at the time. We had just moved into this house, just bought a new house. Had to go through some credit issues with the house that we couldn't sell back, where we moved from. Had just moved out of an apartment. So we had a house. We were building a house, trying to sell a house, and renting an apartment all at the same time.
Yeah.
So finances were a little crazy, but so needless to say, it was okay. But I knew what I committed to. This is a part of who I committed to be. So when you called me, I was like, hey, if that's what you need to do, we'll figure it out. And it was never a second thought of, can we get this done? Because I didn't just depend on us. I know God had us every step of the way. He had even up until getting this house, the way things fell in place with the finances and the banks and the loans, and I knew God had us in that. So in this season, He would have us as well. So I was like, okay, then we'll go and make it happen. And that was just it. Okay. Now the how this was going to work was a whole different question.
Okay.
God will make it work. I'm going to work as hard as I have to. If I got to do my job and then go cut grass on the side, I mean, literally, it was going to be whatever. But the how was not there yet. So yeah, it was different.
Okay. The second question is, was it challenging becoming the one sole financial source in the home?
I never saw it in the moment as challenging. Looking back, it was extra. It not extra. It felt as though there was more to carry. There was less room for error. The
Mm.
margin for error was had shrunk because if something happened and I had to change jobs, there was a second income that could sustain until I found something else or whatever. But at this point now, that margin for error is very, very, very almost non-existent because
Mm.
every bill, every piece of food, everything that comes into the house, it's got to come from me. So yeah, it was. But when that margin of error went away, the way it kind of worked itself out is that I had to learn. I conditioned myself
Mhm.
to not take anything, not leave anything to chance. When I say that, I mean
Oh wow.
at
Okay.
at work, things that possibly may have been, okay, I can let that slide, or I can do that later, or I can focus on this and then go do that. It was everything has to be as close to perfect as possible for me to be able to fireproof our income and our financial stability. So the level of attention to detail, the level of commitment, the level of I don't want to do this, but I know I need to do this in order to fireproof our finances, that went up to 11. But it was a part of the deal. I mean, I kind of knew that's what I needed to do, but now it continued to do that. And that never went away. Even at this place, for those that don't know, you stopped working, you prayed, I prayed that God would help. God gave me a different job that replaced your salary with mine. So now I was making my salary and hers on just my one job. So again, God provided, but that conditioning that I have to fireproof our house. I cannot leave any conversation, any interaction, any job responsibility. I can't leave it to chance. Many times now, Shani will ask me, well, babe, can't you do that from home? And there are some elements from my job that I can do from home. And I often tell her I could, but that's not the best thing to do. That comes from that mindset, because in the back of my mind, my mind's never really changed from that mindset that if I leave the building and I'm working from home and something happens that needs my immediate attention, and my superiors, my boss, my whoever expects me to be in the building and I'm not there, how does that manifest in it's a potential effect on our income? Okay. So now that level of conditioning stays there. It didn't go away, but that leads to mental fatigue.
That's the next question. Did you feel any anxiety from all of that pressure? From what you're saying now, I can see it. I see it manifest. I see it happen every day. How was it, the anxiety, the stresses of me coming home?
Yeah.
And all the added on stuff that you had to do.
It was never anxiety as the outcome is unsure. Okay. It was more effort. It was more, there had to be more mental awareness, but it was never anxiety as most people think of anxiety as, I don't know how this is going to turn out, so it's worrying me.
Yes.
It was never that. It was everything I can control, I'm going to control to do all I can to make sure this doesn't go wrong. So it wasn't anxiety, but that level of constantly trying to be on leads to eventually you're going to hit a place where you're mentally tired. You're just mentally worn out. And again, I do my best to not allow any threats to the financial income for the house. I also, now that mindset pours over into my approach to being a father. I don't take any interaction with the kids for granted. There were several days I would come home and I would be dog tired. And the kids, Dad, can we go play catch? Yeah. And I get up and go. Yeah. I mean, my mind's tired, my body's tired, I'm ready to go lay down, but I'm not taking that for granted. Yes. If something happens with you, if you need me to do something, I'm not going to take that for granted, even if everything in me is like, you don't have the energy to do this. I got to find it, because I can't leave anything to chance. So I think that's the mindset it created in me. Is now, with you being the sole quote unquote breadwinner, everything turns to that mindset of don't leave anything to chance. If you can control it, if you can influence it, if you can be present, if you can be involved, do it. That way you are accountable for whatever happens, at least to the best of your ability. Okay. So yeah. Now, but again, you burn out. You would always tell me, babe, you're going to go until you hit a wall.
He has.
I've done it twice a year.
When he hits the wall, he's out of work for 2-3 days, and
usually it's on a Friday. Usually it's a Friday.
He's in the bed for all day because he's tired and his immune system has been wiped. He has a cold or a headache or something that's just so simple, but it hits because
And for those women out there, let me tell y'all something. Listen to me. Y'all always say a man's cold is so much worse. You know why? Because he's pushed himself so far to the place where his body can't fight it. It's not just that the man's being a baby. It's that he doesn't have the ability to fight anymore. His body has spent all of his resources to work, to supply, to father, to husband, to do all of those things. And now when he gets sick and his body finally hits that wall, that's not one cold you're seeing. That's a year's worth of pushing myself to that point. And if you don't know it, stress is counterintuitive or counteracting your immune response. If your body's constantly under stress and your stress hormones are way up, your immune system doesn't work as well. So now if I'm stressed and then I'm fatigued and my immune system is depleted, the smallest cold. It was usually around spring, allergy season,
Mm-hmm.
fall, allergy
Allergy
season.
season.
Those two, that's when I would hit that wall every year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but it was what I had to do. So,
Well, ladies, you guys heard that. He was holding that in and he
yeah, I
let it
was. I've been
out.
holding that in.
He
I
let it
keep
out.
hearing this on TikTok about a man gets a cold and it's, oh, listen, there's a reason for that.
Well, if you're a person that's very in tune with your partner, you know that all men are like, they're not like that. You know that when they get to that point, it's because something has caused them to get there. Because
Hmm.
most times men aren't usually sick.
Right.
So the last part is, are you comfortable with the decision? Were you comfortable with the decision? And do you think if you had the opportunity to make that decision again, would you do it the same?
I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't, because to me, you know this about me, and I'm not saying this to toot my own horn. This is just who I've always been. When I dedicate myself to a cause, there's you spare no effort if you're committed. I don't commit to things if I'm going to reserve effort.
Mm-hmm.
When I and the biggest commitments, there are three big commitments: my commitment to God, my commitment to you, and my commitment to my family and my kids. Those things are non-negotiable. So when it came, okay, this is what is required for me to fulfill my commitment to my household, my wife, my kids. What can you change? And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with it, and I'll tell you why. Because one, I had to do it because your mental health was suffering. Because if you, I couldn't have asked you to stay in that job knowing the effect it was having on you mentally. Because
Thank
you
you.
can't
Thank
undo
you.
mental injury.
Thank you.
Now, people, I'm going to say that again.
I
Listen to me
appreciate
very,
that.
babe. I love you, of course.
I
But that's
know, I know, but I have to say that because some people never think that a person doesn't appreciate them because everybody doesn't hear it.
true.
But I
That's
always
true.
tell you how
That's
much
true.
I appreciate you.
Very true. But again, I told you I never took things for granted. So if I would have just said, babe, you got to tough it out another 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
the mental anguish you possibly could have went through
Yeah.
could have produced behaviors, wounds, issues that you could have may have never healed from. You can
Mm-hmm.
always get therapy and find something, but that time, what happens to you? Listen, we are a collection of our experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say you didn't experience something.
Mm-hmm.
So if I would have just said no, babe, you got to stay, I'm opening you up to all of this potential mental trauma when I know why you're in this mental state. It's not because of anything you did. Your mother
Mm-hmm.
passed away. You couldn't do anything about that.
Yeah.
So one, I couldn't allow that risk was that's just not a risk I'm going to take. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the first thing. And second, I got to be there for the house. I got to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I wouldn't have changed anything. The reason why I did it is because I knew it was what you needed. And then after that, every decision was, this is my family. What else? There's no. This is not a discussion.
Even after I left the job, I still was in this cocoon of
Facts.
grief.
Facts.
I was still trying to find myself. And I think that what added additional stress to being home
Mm-hmm.
is that I was grieving, trying to take care of the children. I just left a job that I really loved, and I was trying to find who am I without my mother in the picture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you saying okay to that took off a very heavy burden on me, but then I shifted that burden and put it on you.
And this is
And
why that first commitment I made is so important.
yes,
Because when you get into situations that are too big for you, that is when God steps in and takes what you can't deal with.
yes.
So, and I don't, you can say it sounds cliche, whatever you want, but I'm telling you, in those moments when you have come to the end of yourself, you begin to see the beginning of God's grace and mercy.
That's true.
And in
That's
those
true.
moments where I had to be God called on me to be the breadwinner, the sole income, the support for you, the support and covering for the
There were
kids.
times you had to be mom and dad
Yeah, but
because I mentally couldn't handle it.
God kept us through it. And now I
Mm-hmm.
will also say, I've seen how it's benefited you to have that experience. But
Mm-hmm.
now the benefit that our kids have from you being at home is
Mm-hmm.
invaluable.
Yeah.
Now, I couldn't see this before.
None of us could see it.
I couldn't
And
see
like
it.
I said to you before, this is not being a stay at home mom wasn't something that was in my
No, no, no,
plans.
no, no.
I wanted to be a working mom.
She was
But
a very
oh,
ambitious career woman.
oh yes, oh yes,
had
and it
and
kind of
had recently got promoted to this position. You left.
yeah,
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 yeah. So,
yeah.
but now looking back on where you are, I thank God that I think He brought you through that as best as we could have
Mm-hmm,
expected.
mm-hmm.
And the value that we have found and our kids have
Yeah,
experienced from
yeah.
having mom at home, able to volunteer in their school, able to
Mm-hmm.
have lunches with them,
And
able
we're
to
not just talking about stay-at-home mom. It's parents. They're stay-at-home fathers as
parents, yeah,
well. But go ahead.
and able to the kids are able to know when they're out at school that if I ask the teacher to call my mom right now, mom will be here in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
There's no that level of safety for them is
Yes,
invaluable. It's
yes,
invaluable. So
yes.
that's why I said there's no I would not, especially knowing what I know now, I wouldn't try to change anything.
See, and this is why I wanted to do this video because we always talk about the stay-at-home parent, mom or dad. We know what they felt, why
Mm-hmm.
they did it, but we never ask about the partner, the spouse, the person that's taking the brunt force. Like I said, I put the weight on him. What are their thoughts? What are their challenges?
Mm-hmm.
Are they just keeping their mouth shut and making sure, okay, you're okay, you're okay. I'm right here for you. But who is there for you? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. But I'll say this. When something is valuable, you spare no effort. You don't take it for granted, and it's just part of it. It's a part of it. This is what you sign. Not I'm gonna say this is what you sign up for, because some people get to this point and they said, "I can't do it. I walk away."
Yeah.
But that was not an option. Failure in our marriage, failure in our family was not an option for me. It
Mhm.
wasn't going to be because I didn't try to do something. It was going to be, hey, this is what it is. This is what we got to do.
So we're gonna stop it right there because it can go on and on and on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I really believe when he said failure is not an option, that will be another series to talk about. Because when you get married, before you get married, you have to put some things in place
Facts.
and understand some things are just a non-negotiable thing.
Mm-hmm.
And on the next series, we'll talk about things like that. Because if those things weren't in place, how could we be where we are right now and being able to explain to you and tell you what we've experienced
Mm-hmm.
and how it's been successful for us?
Right.
So, anything to close with?
The last thing you said is, you never think about the other side. You never think about how, but when for those that are on that other side, understand that what you're doing is worth it. It's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that these last 10 years since you've been out of work,
Mm-hmm.
every day has been easy. And even with the level of commitment and dedication to you and to our family, the dedication, the commitment, the inability, the unwillingness to accept anything less than the best for myself, to fireproof, all of that sorts of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that's not easy. But you have to look inside and always remember your why, as people say. And no, this is not easy, but it's so worth it. And if that worth is there, then it drives everything else. Function from your worth, not from your state of ease. Because if you function from your state of ease, you'll never get anything done.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and we're going to close it out with that. Come back next time for another video with Inspire Higher Family and Leadership.
See y'all next time.
Bye.